Hi. So I first met Ionat Zurr about 15 years ago at the University of Western Australia. I was a recent MFA grad in film and television, and Ionat was a recent mother and co-founder of Symbiotica, one of the most exciting and leading centers in the emerging field of the biological arts. Since the 1990s, Ionat and her collaborator Oren Katz had been cultivating the Tissue Culture and Arts Project, where unusual and daring projects like victimless leather and semi-living worry dolls took shape. These were artistic renderings of successful collaborations between artists and researchers in tissue engineering and other biological lab practices, and were catching international attention, making headlines and drawing interest to this novel artistic expression. This investigative methodology paved the way for the successful future of Symbiotica, which quickly became a flourishing epicenter of collaborative interdisciplinary research. Ionat's work and her innate collaborative approach to research has inspired many artists and thinkers worldwide. She has been a visiting scholar at the Center of Arts and Art History at Stanford University and a research fellow at the Tissue Engineering and Organ Fabrication Laboratory at Harvard Medical School. Her work has been exhibited at museums such as the Pompidou Center in Paris, MoMA, New York, Mori Art Museum, Japan, the Art Gallery of Western Australia, Ars Electronica, Austria, and the National Art Museum of China. I'm very excited and honored to welcome my friend and now colleague and talented collaborator, Ionat Zurr, to the Penn State One Health Microbiome Center seminar. And I'm going to present you with a lovely plaque. Oh. Yeah. And we're all very excited to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for a lovely introduction. I'll just keep my phone so I can keep the time. So thank you, everyone. I would like to keep it somewhat casual. So if you have a burning question, you can always interrupt. But this is quite a provocative a title of the talk. It is something that I work with those two lovely women over there work on it. I won't talk about it too much today. It's more about, I want to provoke the ideas of bodies. What is a body? And bodies of, our own bodies, but also bodies of the food we consume. So let's go ahead and explore that. Also, in Australia, as I do the work in Australia, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land. This research was conducted on the Whadjuk Perth region people. I wish to acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respect to elder past and present. Sovereignty has never been ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And this is something that we do in Australia before every talk that we give. And I find it extremely important, especially in the context of, lands that we are using and exploiting, and the people that, and the other organisms, the human and non-human, on those kinds, on country. Okay. So I'm going to go back many years ago when I was very young and cheerful. It was back in the early 2000s. Actually, it was 1999. And as Cynthia said, Ron and myself were invited as research fellow to the organ fabrication, tissue engineering and organ fabrication laboratory at Harvard Medical School in MGA. And we were actually the first artists to be a research fellow in this place. And I think when Professor Vacanti invited us, he was sure that what we're going to do is draw pictures, do films on the amazing research that conducted in his lab And one of the scariest moments for him was that we were actually working in the sterile hood with the technologies and with the living materials in the lab. But to his credit, he said, well, let's see how it works. And hopefully it works well. But this is a slide from his presentation. The idea, how we conceived the bodies back in the 90s, early 90s, before probably many of you weren't born. And the idea was that this is from 1989, and the idea of how to fix body, and when we say fixed body, it's also quite naturally moving to enhanced body, was more in terms of we use the cyborg metaphor. Yes, so we use metals, we use plastic to replace organs that stop functioning. And then in this is 1999, he came with the idea of looking at body as a regenerative site. So again, rather than using non-living material to fix the body, we can use the natural abilities of the body to grow and heal itself to fix itself, yeah? And I don't know, for you now, it sounds very, of course, but at the time, this was very revolutionary. And this is another slide from his talk, and the idea of tissue engineering or regenerative medicine, as we call it. So we have the scaffold that is made from non-living material, although I know that now you make it also from mycelium, which is great, biodegradable material. Then we put the cells that we want from the organ that we want to fix. Today we're using, of course, stem cell or iPS. And the idea was we grow the organ in the tissue, in the Petri dish, and then implant it back to the body. And it was also during the time that the mouse with the Ionat Zurr came about. You remember that? Yes. And when I used to put the slide of the mouse with the Ionat Zurr, people used to leave the room. They were so disgusted. Now I think many people think that, you know, mice are born with ears on the back. That's how things are changing. And Oron Katz and myself, we were artists, and we looked at the mouse with the ear on its back, and we thought, you know, this is actually an artwork. Yeah, we have a lot of representation of chimeras in drawing, in ancient cultures. But now we don't need representation. We can actually grow those chimeras. And what does that mean? You know, it's almost like surrealism, for those who know a little bit of art history, is coming alive. And we thought, if this is possible and scientists and engineers are doing it, artists need to be there to talk more, first of all, about the aesthetics, you know, yeah, we artists, that's our specialty, but also artists talk about cultural implication of those kinds of technology. And what does it mean to our idea of what is a body and, you know, what is life in general? And the idea was at the time that, you know, we'll just create new organs. And Oron and I say, let's just keep this part. Let's concentrate on the Petri dish and think about not creating organ like spare parts, organ spare parts, but looking at creating actual objects, living or semi-living objects to use in our environment. Yeah, why should we actually copy the design of an organ, and, you know, why not do something new? Or something else, nothing is completely new. Or, for example, you know, if in the past the idea to fix a heart was to use a pump and put it into the body, then tissue engineering came and said, let's grow a heart. We said, and put it into a body, we said, why not let's grow a pump in a dish? Mm-hmm. So you see the logic that came in to our mind. And, you know, artists are very good in taking, if you want, knowledge and taking it out of the silo of its discipline and putting it in new contexts. So that's what we did. But for us, it was also this is from 1916, from the beginning of the field of tissue culture. I don't want to tell you about the history of tissue culture, but it's history of eugenics. It's not a lovely history, but we won't go into that. But this is one of the helper of tissue culture, and this is the first tissue flask. And he said, and this is very interesting, through the discovery of tissue culture, we have, so to speak, created a new type of body on which to grow cells, a new form of cell environment, in many respects different from the normal body that nature has given the cell in which to develop. And today we have bioreactors, we have artificial wombs, we have many new type of bodies. What kind of microbiome this body has? Yeah, that's one of the questions that I'm asking. And also here, the mouse with the earrings back, please don't leave the room, thank you. Here is, we worked with an Australian artist called Stella, who has ear on his forearm, but here we grew a replica of his ear made of tissue. And we have a problem with our language at the moment. Our science and technology developing so fast, and we have no words to describe those new kind of things, entities we create. And we were talking with the artificial womb with Professor Flake, who we met in CHOP yesterday, who, how do we define the potential fetuses that will move from a womb to an artificial womb? Are the newborn, are the fetuses? Maybe we need to find a new word for that. And it's not just because of ontological decision, it has ramification in terms of legal application of how we treat them. So we had this problem with tissue construct, yeah, because they're living, but they are dependent on a artificial support mechanism to live. So they kind of semi-living. So we called them semi-living because we couldn't find any other word for that. And then we came with definition. Artists also likes to talk a lot. Semi-living are a new class of object being constructed, living and non-living material, and are kept alive through artificial support. It is both natural and constructed. And it's like, we also thought we can treat it like, our pets or a plant in the garden, but it's not really like that. Today, I think in your labs, you have so many semi-livings that I don't know how you feel about them. I mean, probably if they do what you want them to do, you feel kind of kinship with them. If, but you have no problem to bleach them when the experiment is done. So, we artists also like to complicate it for you. Things that you try not to think to make it uneasiness. You are working with living organisms. Yeah. And I think you talked about the semi-living worried also. This was the first time that we were, until then we worked in the lab and created those kind of construct. And then we were invited to a festival in Europe called Ars Electronica. And the theme was the next sex. How are we going to have sex? No, how are we going to procreate in the future? Let's think about that. And we were at the time, growing semi-living worry dolls, specifically for Professor Vacanti, who got really worried that we are working in the lab, in the sterile hood. So we told him, don't worry, Professor Vacanti, you know about the worry dolls that people collect and put under the pillows and say the worries to the dolls, and in the morning the worries are taken away. We'll grow you semi-living worry dolls. And again, how are we growing them when we think about that? We're growing them, this is a rotating bioreactor. Do I need to explain bioreactor in this room, or this is something that people know? This is this is from 2000. It was a bioreactor rotating one that was designed by NASA to go to space. We were, they just gave it to the lab to do experiments. The lab realized that to grow organs, this is the worst technology you can have, because the organ doesn't have any structural, but it's going to grow sculptures. So we decided we'll use it, and we put it in the gallery. This is one of the worry dolls that we grow. We use biodegradable polymers. Some of you know PLGA, and use surgical sutures to do those. And this is, again, we had to construct a whole laboratory in the gallery in order to show the tiny worry dolls. Yeah, and we call it the tissue culture and artificial womb, because to grow the worry doll, we needed the bioreactor, which is the artificial womb environment to grow the cells. We didn't think that, yesterday we will actually talk to someone who's talking about growing babies in something like that. But yeah, again, it's provocative. We're not growing baby. It's extending. Sorry, I should be very correct about extending the ability to have premature babies outside of the natural womb. So you can see we had all this mise en scène in order to have tiny, not so, aesthetically pleasing worry dolls growing inside the bioreactors. We call it the aesthetic of care because every day, like in the zoo, we would come and feed the cells, yeah? And you know how you feed the cells, you do it every day, mundane kind of thing. For us, it was a ritualistic aspect. And at the same time, the people could come and tell the worries to the dogs, okay? And people took it really seriously because the cells were alive, the dolls were, semi-living worry dolls were alive. They were almost like a voodoo dolls, if you want. And we have the collection of those worries, yes.
Did they tell them their own personal worries or the worries for the dolls that they were observing?
Their own personal worries yeah. It was also it was the year 2000, so it was the Gulf War, yes. So a lot of worries about the Gulf War as well. Yeah, it's quite interesting how wars, yeah. I don't want to talk about wars today, but a lot about wars, but a lot of very personal, yeah. And it was, on the internet. So actually, it was also the realization that people are willing to share personal things on the, for everyone. But you do it all the time today. So, it was just, at that time, it was a realization. So for the next sex exhibition at Ars Electronica, for the first time, we could show semi-living tissue construct in artificial wombs. But let me now go back to the idea of how, what we see is artificial wombs today is basically, if we look backward, what are the earliest kind of life-sustaining or surrogate bodies? You can think of the earliest one. You wrote a book about the animals that, yeah, of course, it's the chicken incubators. This is in a way the earliest surrogate bodies or, artificial womb that we call today. And it makes sense, because you have the egg, it's another area. So it's another covering, if you want. So the incubator is a simulator of bodies, homeostatic, surrogate for life, out of context, out of place, and out of agency, okay? I always, and don't take it personally, I'm in the lab a lot, but I say biotechnology is a violent act. We are taking organism or parts of organism out of context, out of place, and out of agency, okay? And this is the earliest incubator back in Egypt, ancient Egypt, and they use manure, they use shit and other things to create heat that will warm the eggs. The only labor that they had to do is move the eggs. You all look very shocked, that's okay. Tell me if yeah. And this is the early one. Then possibly the earliest recorded is the thermostat. Thermostat is the first cybernetics, second wave cybernetics, first order cybernetics. that we can think of. And if you think about cybernetics, so that was actually, again, an invention to do with surrogate bodies. Yeah, with it also for, women of us for the female labor, if you want. So that was the earliest one that you can see in a chicken incubator and artificial mother. Okay, so what I imply is actually at that time, the French used to call this kind of space where the chicken would come out from the incubator as the artificial mother. Okay, so again, we can also see how machinery or automation is slowly taking the role of, if you want, surrogation for life. And this is in the US, in Buffalo, the first incubator, a kind of industrial scale incubator, okay? The problem solved. How many times did you tell yourself when you did an experiment, the problem solved? Never. And I can tell you, we'll never solve the problem. We think we're solving problems and we're creating new ones. And we live in days that we realize in our own hubris. But still, the problem is solved, artificial incubation in chicken rearing. And here we move also to industrial scale that we see today, which move to the new problem solved, we created problems of industrial scale farming, monoculture, all the rest that we all now trying to figure out how to work with. Okay, but chickens, yeah, we are anthropocentric. Let's look at our own bodies. We treat ourselves much better than chicken, don't we? Yeah? What is that?
Human incubator.
Human incubator, that's right. Why do we have those aisles like crowd control kind of thing over there? This is basically from Coney Island. Yes, yeah. So this is, if I may say, a freak show. And wheat incubator designed and developed from based on chicken incubator on show for people to come and have a look. You would pay a dime to come and have and see human weaklings, weaklings, they used to call them, on display. Today we look at it and we're like, oh my gosh, we're talking early 1920, something like that, yeah. So the early 20th century that they had that, or 21st century, no, 20th century. I have problem with numbers, sorry. You had nurses that would feed the babies through tubes. And you think this is horrible, yes, but that was the only place to host very premature babies who are born prematurely. There was no incubator in hospital, no hospital had them. The only place was the person who ran that is actually the only place we could show those kind of things was in Expo in freak show, and people would give the babies, and there was 80% success rate. It took 40 years. So from the early 1990s to 1900, I think in the 90s, 40s, the medical establishment decided, oh, this is actually works. Maybe we can use it in the hospitals. Why do you think this happened?
How long would the babies stay in those incubators?
I guess, few weeks, depends on when they were strong enough to be able to get up. And it was quite, again, it was about having warm condition, the gases, the mixture of gases that they needed. Very simple, yeah. It was also, I can tell you, I can give a lecture all about that because it was also, again, it was invented in French when there was a war. So the idea is we need to have more soldiers. Some say that the Connie who ran this show, for him it was an income. So, you know, maybe he, okay, why not? Maybe he didn't want to, you know, kind of have this technology domesticated or neutralized because it was his kind of income. I doubt it. It's a women business. We know that science find it very difficult to work with women bodies and women business. That's why we want to create a machine to take, you know, to take that and simplify it and make it, you know, make sense, because women are just too complicated and hormonal. But I think one of the things was that when we have new technologies to do with life, there is also a need for cultural articulation of this life. So at the time, if you think about it, there weren't really life. Yeah, they were kind of liminal beings. Yeah, not my words. Yeah, liminal beings. They were semi-living, yeah. And we needed cultural articulation, which happens a lot in the freak show. Oh, you know, I think some of the freak shows moved to laboratories now, in order to make sense of life. Sorry, I know I'm a bit controversial here. I do it on purpose. That's the role of the artist, okay? So this is the example. I just showed this one and we have to move on. Baby incubator for sale, complete installation to hospital and amusement parks. Okay, and this is Coney Island, yeah? You see. And this is today. Oh, I thought it will be a video, but it's not. This is actually happening at a shop, yeah? Professor Flake was very kind to talk to us yesterday about the artificial, or the extent that he calls it. I think it's called, extent, I don't know what it stands for, but we can look into that. In the popular language, it's called artificial womb. And it's basically the idea that week 22 or 23 of pregnancy, the lungs are not developed enough, and usually the newborn dies. So this enabled to create here an artificial placenta that feeds the baby and give it those 2 weeks that he needs inside the fluid to actually develop to the point that they can transfer to the incubator. Okay? But while incubators now are every day, this is the new freak show that we are dealing with today, yeah? And it's quite interesting. We need to articulate it culturally, don't we? Yeah. Now, I know that he received, and some of you must have heard that, permission to start human experiments. So we're not talking future fiction, we're talking present fact, yeah? Okay, so this is it. Now, we already, remember in 2000, we showed the worry dolls in artificial wombs? Kemp, another researcher with the artificial womb, showed 18 years later his system of artificial womb in the same festival. Again, we need to show those technologies in a cultural festival to start and create articulation, cultural articulation. What's the difference? When we show the artwork, we show them with the living cells. We also created rituals to show the interaction, you know, aesthetic of care. What Kemp and Usuda did, it's bare, yeah? The technology is enough now. We don't even need the life, yeah? It's all about fetishizing the artificial body or the machinic body. Yeah, then life will get along somehow. We'll have to adapt. We all have to adapt to the machines now, no? We all in service of the automations we are creating. I'm going, oh my God. And this is a different kind. This is another artwork that we, Ron and myself created. It calls the Compost cubator. And, you know, again, going back to the Egyptian, we thought we can use those kind of technologies that do not need electricity, etc. You know, let's think post-apocalyptic time, but we need to grow cells to grow in vitro meat to eat, yes? That makes sense. It doesn't, but that's okay. That's what we did. So we created here an incubator that is heated. So the microorganism, for you people in the microbiome, you know, they create heat. The heat is then transferred, I'll show you that so you will understand, into the heat flow into an incubator that we put cells, C2, C12, skeletal muscle cells, in order to grow meat, okay? And it worked, let me tell you. If you have a problem, try that in your garden, you can do that. This is how it goes. People come, there is the tissue flask inside that is done. This is done in London with freezing condition. We worked with the scientists, and you can see the growth of the cells. But let's go to meat with no body. So everyone knows about in vitro meat now. Do I have, yeah. Do you know when was the first time that it was eaten? No, okay. So I'll have to go. Sorry, I'm trying because I thought the slide will be different. Okay, but anyway, yes. This is year 2000. Okay, so we're moving back before some of you were born. This is Oron and myself in the laboratory of Dr. Vacanti, tissue engineering. There is a surgery, one of the scientists doing a tissue engineering procedure through a fetal surgery. Yes, going inside the womb to do some surgery and ending up with a lot of cells, lamb cells, if you want, or fetus lamb. What's the name of a lamb that is a fetus? Do we have a word for that? Poverty of language. Anyway, with those kind of cells, those are cells, as you all know, growing like crazy. They are stem cells. They're filling up Professor Vacanti's lab. The scientists come to us and say, please do something with it. I don't know what to do with it. I can't just throw it. And we said, we have muscle cells. Let's grow it into meat. And we did it not because we were interested in, you know, company that will create in vitro meat. Not even from, you know, sustainability. In retrospect, we thought about it more. But it was from the idea of what does it mean to eat an animal that was never born? Yeah? And that's, you know, making this kind of conundrum. The other thing is what is for artists the most intimate relations with their art? Consuming it, yeah? So this was done in the year 2000. And we did it in a lab, a biomedical lab. And of course, as you all know, we couldn't taste it. So we grew it for 3 months and in the bioreactors, and we couldn't eat it. So 3 years later, we were invited to France to grow the in vitro meat in a gallery and consume it in the end of the experiment. We call it disembodied cuisine. We were in France, so we used frog cells because, you know, American people, I'm going to be, you know, can't tease you, hate frog meat. Yeah, French people hate engineered meat. So we'll put all of it together. We have Xenopus over here. This is the lab we designed based on Alexis Carrel early tissue culture experiments. Never mind. Oh, we don't have sound here, unfortunately. That's a bit pity. Can we fix that?
You have a volume control?
Maybe it's me, you reckon? Okay, I'll talk anyway. So what we did is basically went to places where they farmed the frogs for food. We rescued 2 frogs and We kept them in the gallery. We actually worked with scientists who gave us a frog cell line called XTC, which is non-viral. We did a lot of experiment to make sure that what we're growing is edible and not dangerous. Then we had the feast where we actually, okay, you can see here when we cooked it, we'll also use calvados because it helps in digestion, honey and garlic for their antibacterial properties. This is the menu. Those of you who know French will know that, and this is extreme Nouveau cuisine. Okay, this is the size of the first in vitro meat to be eaten. Okay, and you think, you will ask me how was the taste? I will not reveal at the moment, we can talk later on, but I can tell you that out of the 6 people that ate it, 4 of them spat it out. And we as artists went quickly to collect all those pieces, only to show it in a follow-up exhibition called The Remains of Disembodied Cuisine. You can see them here, the pieces that people spat, and yeah, and a video that went with that. It was also to say, hey people, you don't have to consume every technology that you get, you can spit it out. And I can tell you that I have many reservations about this technology. I think it's a lot of hype that need to be dissected, but I won't go into that too much. Now we can even make, we don't even need animal bodies, we can make it out of air. And I don't think I'll show this video, we need the sound. It's very uplifting of how we can actually live without consuming bodies and save the world without consuming body, because we can make meat from air, and you know you use all sorts of I won't go into that. Okay. And this is the field of, as you all know, cellular agriculture that we all very much invested in. And this is a paper that is very interesting. It's proposed, as you can see, to isolated plant tissue-like generation promise several key advantages over existing practices. For example, the production of only useful plant components, wood or secondary without unwanted or unusable plant anatomy. Oh, bark, small twigs, roots, leaves, they're not useful. Who need them? Let us grow and reduce waste associated with the biomaterial production process, holding a plastic petri dish. Yeah, I don't know how much plasticware I'm using in my work, but again, it's this kind of utopia that we are promising ourselves all the time, starting with in vitro meat that will save animals. We don't need the animals. Yeah, now we don't even we can grow just the cells that are needed. And we go even further. This is TED Talk. We can go, rather than having a whole chicken, we can go beaks, feathers. We can read the beaks and feather and sentience. So sentience is in the same level that we're talking about beaks and feathers. Yeah. So we don't need that. Yeah. Instead, this is our future. Yeah, this is a future. So the so-called 4th industrial revolution promises to bring sentiency to the machine and AI. We all know that, yeah, they are very sentient. And to remove sentiency from biological entities through biotechnology and synthetic biology in the name of increasing productivity, efficiency, accounting, utilitarian ethics. You all heard about long-termism, yeah? We won't go into that. Okay, such are the dreams of the new technoclass, a world ruled by sentient machine, while biological labor is free of sentiency, okay? Don't worry, also, we don't have to give birth anymore. We have artificial wombs. we are free to have parties and drink and do all those kinds of things. So there is nothing that's another company. I don't have time, so I'll go through that. But those are companies. How do we manufacture animals and treat them as commodities is new and unnatural. So we'll move to the lab and we'll create. This is good meat, okay? And the last thing that I'm going to show is the work that we call the three. Oh, I need sound for
I
that.
can try to, I need to set your settings, and that's why I tried not to do it. but
Okay,
I
that
can.
will be the last video that, because I'm running out of time, but I really need sound for that. So we'll wait. If you have anything you want to ask in the moment. Yeah.
Oh, yay.
I knew what to do, I just didn't want to disrupt it.
No,
Okay.
thank you. Yes.
This is really loose, but and when you were showing that engineered meat
Yeah.
in that show in Paris, right before you ate it,
Yeah.
the exhibit next said charpentier. And I just wondered, was that charpentier? She is one of the two people who came up with CRISPR. Yeah, they got a Nobel Prize for
Where did it?
coming up with CRISPR, and it was right behind, next to you on a big placard.
Oh, let me do
Yeah, I just wondered.
investigation.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you. I don't know, yes. Cool, yeah. And
Yeah,
I
there.
can.
It was another set.
For some, the sky's the limit. For us, it's a starting point. Because below the clouds,
Okay, so I'll talk while you're trying to figure it out. The thing is that we trust technology to fix the, and look, I don't think I have one talk without the
there's a world crying out for change.
So,
A change
and we think we can fix the world. We can't even control our own computers. So this exhibition, which you may or may not have the chance to see the nice video that we created, talking about future food, and we're doing this kind of cyclic
is the limit. For
farming
us,
system
it's a starting
that,
point. Because below the clouds, there's a
you know,
world
kind of,
crying out for
again,
change.
I would say irony about the idea
A change
that,
to using
you know, how we can do perfect farming at the moment, and the video explains it much better. But it has four stations. So one, of course, is the compost incubators where we grow meat using the heat from the compost incubator. Then the meat is go into
For
another
some,
section
the sky's the
where
limit.
hydro,
For us, it's a starting point. Because below the clouds,
this
there's
is
a
my
world
cognitive-
crying out for
alkaline
change.
hydrolysis.
A change to using less land,
We won't talk about that.
less-
So alkaline hydrolysis, do you know what it is? It is
Less
actually
water.
already
To
patented in the 19th century, but it's the ability to take living or take organic material, basically flesh, and make it into fertilization. Fertilizer, thank you.
People
Into
can hear your audio online, just not in the room.
Really?
That's
Oh,
freaky.
okay.
I just connected it.
You see, oh, I have an
Transforming
ethical
industries
dilemma
that have
here. You
become-
understand the ethical dilemma? Do I, prefer them on you? I don't know.
leading causes of climate change. At Air Protein, we focused on meat. But to fix it, we couldn't just fix the process. We had to create an entirely new one.
So it goes
So
to
we
the
made meat
alkaline hydrolysis
from air.
to create
Introducing
fertilizer.
MetaMeat, a new food category pioneered by Air Protein. Using novel technology inspired by NASA, we convert elements in the air around us into protein using cultures, then turn those proteins into any meat imaginable.
No, this is not the video that I want.
I was just using that to try to make it
Yeah,
sound.
but
more-
can I go?
Yeah,
to
you
the-
can move forward.
But they won't see it.
Sometimes it gets funky with videos.
you need to get out of this one. And it goes to the hydrolysis, then go into the plant that we grow, of course, without sunlight and without soil and without shade, inside hydroponics. Then the plants go from the hydroponic system back into the compost incubator to feed the cells. And then we put a huge amount of sensors and other devices to get data. A lot of data, useless data, because that's what, you know, we are about. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, technology become more lifelike. Let's see, I'll play it for the people online. You have to make sound, so that's the compatible. It's really, you know, as an artist, I find it very hard to study the sound. As a filmmaker, we have here an artificial voice talk and describe everything. There is a slight irony that you can feel, but you're not sure if the artists really mean what they say, or is it real or unreal. This is how we grow the cells.
Yeah, we're trying something else, not gonna work.
Okay, then this is the moving to the section of the alkaline hydrolysis, where we put meat to make into fertilizer, and you can see the system. That was the patent that, and this is how we brew beer for you, but here we do it. That's precision fermentation for you.
I have a question. You can start.
Yeah.
So I was curious about the air protein concept and video that we didn't get to watch. What is their message? What are they trying to?
So they use some molecules from air, yeah, supposedly, and I think they do use yeast or something like that to create proteins.
Yeah.
So again, it's a long convoluted process that use a lot of, if you want, resources and energy, a lot of energy to create a small amount of protein. But again, those companies, they're selling you dreams, yeah. And as long as they can get the money to sell you those dreams, this is fine. And there's always the promises that this will happen. And again, most of us, we do not know, you know, it's like we think coming from air, you know, it being, the lab is like a black box, you know, that things come in and out and there's no effect on the environment. So yeah, for me, it was again, the narrative, the cultural narrative that is being sold to us, that we fall to, that we can actually live life of abundance without consequences. So instead of us actually thinking, okay, we'll eat less meat or we'll consume less, we'll fly less, sorry, guilty, we are trying to create these fantasies and those kind of technological mediated utopias in order to, yeah, again, have abundance without consequences. And as an artist that, you know, contributed to that in one sense by working with in vitro meat and in vitro leather. I didn't talk about the in vitro leather, and sometimes our work is considered as precursors to the field of biofabrication and cellular agriculture. I feel like a failure, you know, instead of telling you cautious tales, you know, or like being the one who warns about things. As artists, we domesticated those kind, and we living in post-truth world. Now, as an artist, I can tell you whatever I want, and you know, but not that video. You want to see it, every video?
I got it fixed.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's up to you, but if you want to show pieces of it.
Either see if there's more questions perhaps, and then if there aren't.
Okay, I'll stop that and tell me if, so, yeah, and the whole idea of metaverse. Come on, we all know that if we work on, digital is not, it has such a big impact on our environment. Look at, and again, the language is important, the cloud. Why did we choose this word, the cloud, you know? And so, yeah, I'm trying to, Ron and I and our collaborators, to kind of try to open people's eyes to,
Thank you.
I just wanted to tell everyone that we have the room for another hour after this, so we can play the videos at the end. If people have to run at 12, that's totally fine, but you're gonna be able to see it.
And don't worry, it's not a 70 minutes feature, it's I think 5 minutes, so yeah.
Other questions? Go ahead.
So I really love this idea of, using what we probably all think of as just our scientific work, but then, drawing kind of broader cultural conclusions and having conversations around it. So given that a lot of your work has been on culturing human tissues in a somewhat sterile environment, one would think, have you thought about extending that work, including microbes, and making commentaries about our humanness when we do or don't have access to microbes and how that affects our tissues and bodies and all of that? Just because we're a microbiome. You gotta hear about those microbes.
Yeah, artificial roof. So we asked, I want to say the only sterile environment is in the lab, If we live, and we are trying to understand things, and it's of course we have to make things reductive in order to understand things. So we separate them, we put them in either sterile environment. I mean, and we expect them to behave the way they behave in the environment, yeah? And we know it doesn't work this way. So people with microbiome, you know, we are ecologists, yeah? We are more than human already, yeah? Not just human. If I try to, you know, we did some artists in a lab in Symbiotica that tried to co-culture mammalian cells with plant cells. And it was more a symbolic thing, you know, I don't think something really happened. And also, you know, we're not scientists, but it was a symbolic thing, whether we can try to do that. Just as an anecdote, before I moved to the artificial womb, one of my students doing plant tissue culture, and you know, you actually sterilize the seed before you put it. But actually there is bacteria that is never been sterilized and it's inside the seed, yeah? And for a long time, and when the actually plant is not thriving, the bacteria take over and kind of starting the degradable process. But so the discourse is that we need to get rid of this bacteria, but actually it is very important for the plant to succeed. This plant won't thrive without the bacteria. It's just in the case that there are, the bacteria says, well, let's make something useful out of it and degrades it. So I don't think something is completely sterile in that regard, but moving to the artificial womb, we talked about sterility of the artificial womb. And I don't think even the womb is not sterile, although for a long time there was this idea that the womb is sterile, yeah? And Professor Flake said, you know, we can't keep it, we're trying to keep it sterile, but you will never have it completely sterile. And then he moved to the discussion about actually when, you know, there is one of the major problems with pregnancy, late pregnancy, is that you get infection. And then he said, then we can use that, you know, so we'll recruit those women and then we'll create an artificial system that is better than the womb itself. And, you know, that, again, you can see how it can save the child, but you can also see how, you know, when do, you know, where is the line? Where is, you know, a point when we say, yeah, the artificial womb or this artificial environment is better than a natural environment. We're already saying it now about the food we grow, about all those kind of things. We're moving now to the reproduction, you know, so you can see where this can take us. So yeah, and then also we can, I won't go there, but I will go there because I love science fiction. We can grow babies without the beaks and the sentiency, you know, so we can create. And I actually asked, because that's something that is discussed in tissue engineering, can we actually create a bag of organs without the central nervous system? And this will be ideal for, you know, getting organs for replacement organ. But again, we are trying to, again, you see that this kind of thinking about having an artificial environment, growing living organs without sentiency, how we're starting to treat, as I said, living organisms which have, you know, have so much agency. We try constantly to kind of to dissect them, to reduce them, to make them unsentient, while machines that we constructed, we give them, you know, sentiency to control a lot of things just without thinking, yeah? To giving stupid machine control to make so many of our decisions, while we're treating sentient things as something that we can control, and we can't, you know. Life is, forgive me, life is a beach. Life is not surrounded that, yeah. And we can see that, we're trying, but we'll see where it will go. Yeah.
Let's thank you, Ionat. We're out of time. Now it's working.